used to call the parlor, but I'll call it living room. And that base burner, I couldn't reach halfway around it. It was 2 heads taller than I am. And we burned hard coal in it. And all of the body of this base burner was isinglass. And you know, we'd put maybe 5, 6, 7 big buckets of hard coal in that base burner, and a magazine from up here would feed it slowly. And when those coals become red, oh, we didn't need to light any lights in that living room. It was just lighted up from the coals of that fire. And then, you know, my father, while Mom and my sister were doing the dishes and getting everything ready out there, and they would always pop a big dish pan full of popcorn. And all the rest of us were in the living room. But Dad, we had lots of fruit. We raised everything that we had and used. All right, Dad would go out to an old-fashioned cave that he dug and built himself out there in the yard. And you know, he would go down and bring up a dish pan full of nice cold apples, and they brought them in the living room. And folks and my mother and sister would bring the popcorn in. And you know, there was family set. That's when Mom and Dad knew where all 9 children were. They were right there in the living room with Mom and Dad. Oh, those were wonderful days when you knew where your children were, and you knew what they were doing. Mothers and dads don't know that today. Some of the children, oh, I don't even want to talk about it. It's so terrible. And on and on. Well, some of the moms and dads are worse than the children today, and so it is. But anyway, there we were in that living room. And then, you know, another thing I was thinking about is this. My mother, before she ever left that kitchen, we had a great big old range in that kitchen we cooked on. And bless her heart, we used the old-fashioned flat irons, and you older people remember those. We didn't have any electric irons to iron with, but we had 6 or 8 of those, and she pushed them on the back of that range, and then she'd lay maybe 6 or 8 big bricks on that range, on the back of it, and then after our popcorn and our apples had been eaten, and we'd visit a little while, all of us together. Oh, listen. I see my mother and sister go to the kitchen. I knew what they were going to do. God bless their hearts. The next thing we knew, I'd see them. They've wrapped all of those irons and bricks up in pieces of material. And we had a 2-story frame house. There was no heat in our upstairs. It was bitter, bitter, bitter cold up there. And so my mother and sister would carry those irons and those bricks upstairs, and they'd put them in the beds of all of the children. And then the time come, Mom said it's bedtime. And she always took the lead and took us upstairs. And you know, when she turned the covers down and we'd get in that bed, and you could feel the warmth from that iron. Let me say to you young people, I don't know anybody in the world that loves you that much. I haven't met that person that loves you that much. It's Mom and Dad who cares about you. It's Mom and Dad who goes out of their way to do these things for their children if you have a good mother and father. And we were so happy. And she'd always cover us up and so on and so forth. All right, now you know I live in homes all over this country. Some ministers' homes, some saints' homes, but I live in homes. I love children and I love young people. And I love old people. In fact, I love everybody. I don't love anybody I don't love. But anyway, I'm living in homes. And you know what? I many times see the mothers get up in the morning, and sometimes they fix breakfast for the kids. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes their little kids go to school without any breakfast. They say, I don't want anything to eat, and that's all there is about it, and they go without it. And on and on. But you know what I hear our Pentecostal mothers say many times? They go to the door and call the children, and they just politely turn over. They answer, but they just turn right over and go back to sleep. You see, I feel very sorry for Pentecostal children. The most of them are raised under a bench or on a bench. That's the way they spend most of their childhood. And they're in school, they go to school, they're in church every night. I tell you, those little kids get very, very weary, I want you to know. And so I can understand a lot of this. But I hear those mothers call and call and call and call, and eventually have to go in the bedroom and really drag them out of bed to get them out so they can get them dressed and get them off to school. But you know what my mother used to do? Oh yes, I'm lying right there in that in that casket. I'm thinking about all of these things. And you know, a warmth of love is sweeping all over me, and made me to know I had a wonderful mother and dad. Maybe I didn't appreciate them that much when I was a kid at home, but now I know all about it now. All right, you know my mom and time to get up in the morning. Maybe she and Daddy was up at 4:30, but they never got us up that early. But when it was time to get us up, you know what she'd do? She'd come to that stair door, and all in the world I ever heard my mother say before I entered the convent was hot cakes and sausages. Nothing else. Not another thing. She didn't need to. That we come out of those beds, tumbling out of those beds, and ran down those stairs and run in that big old living room there by the base burner, and there we took off our pajamas and put on our school clothes and went in and washed our hands. And you know, when we come out in that big old farm kitchen around that big old farm table, there's 3 hard men, there's my father, and there's 9 kids sitting around that table. My grandmother is there. I tell you, that's a lot of people. Where did I find my mother? I would see her over there by that big old range. But what did I see on that table? I saw a big platter of homemade sausage, already cooked. There was a big platter of eggs, and there was a big stack of hot cakes to start out with. And let me tell you, folks, that's home life. That's really living. And I can give my mother and dad the credit for every bit of it. And you know, we'd sit around there and ate and ate. I've never heard my mother say, kids, aren't you ever going to get full? And honestly, sometimes I wonder if we ever struck bottom. We ate so many hot cakes. Well, we enjoyed it. It was home, and we knew we were welcome to eat as many as we wanted. But you know, the strange part of it was, back there I never thought about Mom standing there and doing all that cooking. No, I didn't give that any serious thought. I was nothing but a child when I went into convent. But I'm thinking about it now. She'd wait until all of the rest of the family ate all they wanted. Then my mother would cook hers, and she'd sit down there after we'd picked up her dinner buckets. And by the way, she'd fix those 6 dinner buckets, and we were wrapped good and warm and sent off to school. Then my mother sat down and ate. Oh, did I love her? But you know what? You'll never know the times that I wish I could just see her, that I could go and put my arms around her and tell her how much I love her. Oh, how I'd love to thank her for all of those days when I was little and I couldn't do things for myself, but she was so good to do them for me. But I never had that opportunity. You young people better appreciate your parents. You better tell them how much you love them. You better let them know how you feel about them. It's too late when they're gone. I would I had the opportunity to tell my folks. All right, these are serious things, but this is what. So when the time comes for the great mortal to be lifted, you know, I was reminiscing most of those 9 hours. Then all of a sudden I happened to think what I was doing. And so I tried to get a hold of myself. And this is what I'm thinking. I'm going to be the best nun it's possible to be. I'm going to spend hours and hours praying for lost humanity. I'm willing to do penance. I'm willing to suffer. And I knew I was going to have to suffer. I knew I was going to have to live in crucial poverty. I knew a lot of things, but not some of the things that I should have known. They didn't let me know that, but I did know a lot of things, and so on and on. All right, those last maybe hour, whichever it might have been, we don't know how long. And then I heard the bell tap. I know then they're going to lift the great mortal from the casket. I know I can step out of the casket. And you know, just as soon as they lifted the great mortal, and I stepped out of that casket, all right, then the Mother Superior standing there, she's going to lead me back in a room, and not the one I told you about last night, but a room back here. And when I go into that room, she's going to have me to sit down in a straight-back, hard-bottom chair, and there I'm going to take my perpetual vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And the very first thing the Mother Superior does is to open a place here on the lobe of my ear, and she's going to take out enough blood because I have to sign all of these vows in my own blood. And the first vow is poverty. Now, as the Mother Superior is permitting me to take this vow, I must sign it in my own blood, that I'm willing to live in crucial poverty the rest of my life. And you know, I didn't know what poverty was right then. Oh, a lot of you folks, you don't have everything you want, neither do I, and it's not good for you to have everything you want. But I didn't know what poverty was. I know now. I've lived in a convent most of my life. I know all about poverty, but I didn't then. And so I willingly, voluntarily signed that oath in my own blood that I'm willing to live in crucial poverty the rest of my life. My next vow is this, chastity. Now I'm going to have to sign this in my blood, and this is what it means. Chastity. I will never legally marry in this world. I'm already the wife of God. I told you about it last night. The wedding ceremony that was performed, and I was pronounced the spouse or the wife of God. All right, now I'm signing this vow. I'll never legally marry in this world. I'm already married to God. And listen, folk, I didn't know what it was all about then, but I was sincere and I was honest, and God even knew my heart then, I'm sure. All right, now the next vow I sign is the hardest of all the vows, but you don't know that either. You learn soon after, but you don't know it then. And that's the vow of obedience. Now I'm going to sign this vow. I will be an absolute obedience to the Mother Superior, to all the prelates of the Roman Church, to the Pope, go unto the Mother Superior of the convent that they're going to take me to. All right, I signed all of those vows in my own blood. But just for a moment, what do you think I really did do? I'll tell you, you don't stop to think about it either. When I finished signing those vows, I didn't know it then, but I learned later. I've signed away every human right that I have. I'm no longer a human being. I'm just a mechanic or something. They press a button. In other words, I couldn't sit down on a chair till they told me, and I don't get off of a chair till they tell me. I can't eat a bite of food till they tell me, and I can eat only so long, 5 minutes, and I'll get up to when they tell me. And everything you do is mechanically done because I've signed away every human right that I have. But you don't know that. You don't wake up until it's too late and the vows are already signed, and then I'm in this predicament. And there's nothing I can do about it, I can assure you. Oh, listen, from this moment on, I feel not, see not, hear not complain not, murmur not. I'm a mechanical human being, and on and on. All right, let's go on just a little bit farther. Now the Mother Superior. Next thing she's going to do is to cut my hair. I have natural curly hair. It used to be so very, very curly, but remember, I've been in a convent. Every 3 months in the cloister, my hair is clipped off with a pair of clippers. But not at this time. I'm still open order. And so the Mother Superior cut bangs like this and come down and cut it around my ears here. But you know, my hair was so curly, and it was never too long, right about here, and the long part of it, she cut it, and then she laid it nicely over here on the table. What are they going to do with that hair? They're going to sell that hair to the highest hair bidder. They have somebody to come in, and they will buy that hair. Human hair is very expensive, and they commercialize off of the hair from the heads of the little nuns. And of course, then she took the scissors, and she's chopped every bit of that hair off now. Then she put a pair of clippers on my head, and I'm completely bald-headed. I don't have one hair left on my head. Then the Mother Superior is going to go on a little farther, and she's going to take away my name, the name that my father and mother gave me when I was born in their family. She's going to give me the name of a patron saint, and she's going to tell me whatever happens to me in the convent, if I'm sick or wounded, hurt or anything, I can call upon my patron saint, and she will intercede and get my prayer through to God. Now, I didn't realize what all of these things meant even then, but she's giving me the name of a patron saint. Now, after all of this is transpired, all identification of who I was will be destroyed. Oh, they're subtle, they're clever. I said it is destroyed. Maybe you don't know the seriousness of this. My father and mother could have gone to that convent and inquired about me, and they would tell her there's nobody there by that name. They've given me a name of a patron saint to write under. And of course, at that time, they didn't give out the names of the patron saints. Now they do. Then they didn't. No one could have ever known where I was. It's a tragic thing, but you don't know these things until it's too late for you to get out of them. All right, these are terrible things. Now the Mother Superior is going to read an oath to me, and I want you to listen very carefully to this oath. You won't understand, and I'll repeat it again tonight. We are taught to believe that we must imitate the passions and the sufferings. Shed 60,200 tears for you and I. He shed 97,800 drops of blood for you and I. I would like to ask anybody in this building who counted those tears and who counted those drops of blood. Oh, what a heinous thing. What a terrible lie. What a horrible thing it was to tell us that, and we don't know any better. That never existed. That never happened. But that was just something that they gave to us, and we had to accept it as truth. And we did because we don't know any better. But it was a terrible thing. All right, on the body of Jesus, he received 667 strokes for you and I. On his neck, 110 strokes. On his cheeks, 107 strokes. On his back, 380 strokes. On his breast, 77 strokes. On his head, 108 strokes. On his side, 38 strokes. On his shoulder, 62 strokes. On his arm, 44 strokes. On his mouth, 38 strokes. They spit in his face 32 times. They pushed at his feet 370 times. They threw him down to the ground 38 times. They pulled him by the beard many times. By the crown of thorns he received 100 wounds for you and I. He pleaded for our salvation 900 times. For our conversion 162 times. He was in agony for you and I 19 times. He carried the cross to Calvary 312 20 steps. But if you forget everything else, listen carefully to this. The Mother Superior is reading this to us. A plenary indulgence and sorrow for your sins. Escape entirely the pains of purgatory.